the strong charter sector. In 2001, a Democratic mayor, Mark Peterson, worked with a Republican legislator to get Indiana's charter law passed. And he was frustrated because the school district was, had been in a long slide, and he couldn't do anything about it because mayors don't control school districts. But he figured, well, if he can create strong charters, and I can make that happen, then maybe we can help these kids and strengthen our city. So by now, over a third of the students, public school students in Central City, Indianapolis, which is the Indianapolis Public Schools, that district, are in charters. So that put a lot of pressure on the district. And in 2012 and 2014, as Mary Ann will tell you, there was an effort to elect a different board. They hired a different superintendent, and they decided, rather than fight them, let's figure out what's working in what they're doing, and let's do it ourselves. So they got a state law passed that allows them to create innovation network schools, which are district schools, mostly in district buildings, but they're run by nonprofits that have their own boards, and they have typically a 5-year performance agreement with the district. So they're kind of like charters, but they're considered part of the district. Most of them are in district buildings, and for accountability purposes, they count toward the district's performance score. There's several ways this can happen. Sometimes the teachers and principal at a school decide to convert. They decide, if we have more autonomy, we could do such a better job with these students. And 5 of them have chosen to convert. Sometimes it's a new startup. Sometimes it's a failing district school. They haven't figured out how to turn around, and they do a startup innovation school in its place. And then there are some charter schools that have said, we'd like a building, and we'd like this better financial deal, so we'll become an innovation school. So it's a different mix. But there are 20 of them now. And the really good news is that this is really new, but so far, these are the fastest improving schools in Indianapolis. This slide has a lot on it, but let's start at the bottom here. These schools are fairly new. Some of them were restarting failing schools. And if you look at the numbers there, they have higher percentages of kids who qualify for free and reduced lunch, and higher percentages of minorities, students of color, than any other type of school in Indianapolis. And yet, if you look at the percentage of kids who passed both English language and math, it changed in the year from 16 to 17, went up 6.2 percentage points in the innovation schools. You can see in the state it was basically flat. In the rest of the districts it was down just a little under 1%. And in all the charter schools in Indianapolis it was down 0.5%. So the other measure, they also have a state measure of growth on the right there, and you can see that actually the mayor-sponsored charter schools still outperformed the innovation schools by a little bit, but the innovation schools outperformed the other IPS schools by a fair amount. So it has been, so far, it's early, but it's been quite successful. I think it works well because the schools get autonomy, the principals and teachers get to make the key decisions. They know what's best for the kids, they know what the kids need. They know whether they need to hire another social worker or another school psychologist or put their money into technology, whatever their kids need. They face accountability. We don't know yet, but theoretically, if they're not doing a good job, after that 5-year agreement, it won't be renewed. So there's an urgency that the people running these schools feel. The families have a lot of choices of different educational models. The schools are accountable to the parents because the parents can move their child and the money goes with them. And then finally, IPS doesn't have to operate as many schools. And you guys know, when you operate dozens of schools, all the energy goes into operation. I like to talk about steering and rowing. You know, steering is setting policy and direction and figuring out things like, well, do we have the right mix of schools? Do we need more use of technology or less? You know, are our parents satisfied? Do we have enough choice? Those are all steering questions. Rowing is operating the school. And when you operate a lot of schools, there's a crisis every day, and your energy just gets driven toward those rowing decisions. Well, if you're using nonprofits, there's less of that.
She's coming back.
Even more important, maybe I shouldn't walk down here. Even more important, you guys know what happens when you close a district school for performance.
Yes.
Right? There's a brouhaha.
Yes.
And if you've got a union, it's district-wide. It's not just one school. Right? And then when you run for re-election, it's a factor. Right? Now think about this. What happens when you close a charter school or an innovation school run by a nonprofit? It's not nothing. Some of the time, you'll get pushback from that school, from the teachers and the parents. About half the time that happens. About the other half of the time, they know they failed and they go quietly. But you don't get a system-wide revolt. And when you run for re-election, you don't have lots and lots of people angry at you. So you're politically freer to do what's best for the kids, rather than worrying about what's best for the adults. That's one of the major differences. So I'm going to